Subnautica is an ocean-based game where the second most common creature is fish, following the first most common creature, bugs. Surprisingly, the vast number of bugs don't usually distract from how good of a game it is. But sometimes they do. As you sharp-eyed viewers might be able to tell, there is no bulbo tree here, no lantern fruit, no prawn suit, or whatever the game is hallucinating. Oh look, here's a ladder I can climb, and all of a sudden I'm at 2,147,000,000 meters deep, which some of you nerds might recognize as the lowest possible 32-bit signed integer. In this purgatory dimension I can't move, I'm not dead despite being 2 million kilometers deep, I'm not running out of air, and clearly I'm in a Cyclops, but I can't use any of the appliances.
Seek fluid intake.
Let's back up for a second. How the hell did I even get into this mess anyways? Unfortunately, I don't have the original footage, but I was taking my Cyclops for a cruise through the Lost River when the terrain in front of me stopped loading. Being the genius that I am, I kept going forward thinking it's like Minecraft where it'll just correct itself. That didn't happen, so my next brilliant move was to save and quit since I was in hardcore mode, and then restart the game. The game restarted and loaded the terrain just fine except for one little problem. My Cyclops was now on its side, wedged halfway into the wall. Okay, I thought, that's probably not the end of the world. I can make a terraformer and dig it out. But as I was thinking about how to rescue it, it suddenly started vibrating and then disappeared. Next thing I know, words kept popping up on my screen. I somehow found the ghost ladder and boom, I'm 2 billion meters deep. Actually, it's worse than 2 billion meters deep. If I pull up the debug screen, I'm actually nan meters deep. That's right, I am not a number meters deep, which is a pretty crazy number of meters, or rather, not a number of meters. So that explains how screwed up the game is, because if my Cyclops is at nan meters deep, then it's nan meters away from me at all times. 500 minus nan is nan, 0 minus nan is nan, and if everything inside the ship is also at nan, then all that stuff is also exactly the same distance away from me at all times, which is nan meters, and then the game just starts hallucinating things in front of me. There are no console commands to move vehicles, which really sucks because I'm sure the devs have also glitched their vehicles, but they never gave themselves a command to warp a vehicle to a new location. The good news is that there's no protection on the save files. If we want to modify the save files, we can do it. The game doesn't check if you did it correctly or not, it just tries to load whatever's there. There are 3 main files in the save directory. GameInfo.json just has the info that shows up in the saves list, like how long you've been playing, what mode you're in, that sort of stuff. SceneObjects has the stuff that temporarily loaded for where you're at least that's my guess. And then Global Objects has things that are always active in the game, no matter how far away you are. Vehicles are global objects, so are things like your life pod and mobile vehicle base. The tricky part is that these bin files are some sort of serialized collection of game objects and not some easy to understand format. But if we look through it, there are definitely some things we can find, like all of the user entered names are in here, like for lockers and vehicles. There are also a ton of UnityEngine.transform objects, and that's probably what we're looking for. Looking at the documentation for UnityEngine.transform, it looks like it stores position, rotation, and scale. Rotation is stored as quaternions, so in total we would expect that this object has at least 3 floats for positions, 4 floats for rotation, and 4 floats for scale. Looking through the save file, we start to see some patterns. User-provided strings always start with 12 and then the length of the string. Objects start with A and then the length of the class name. The next few bytes aren't super clear, but then you have the actual floating point numbers. Set of 3, set of 4, and a set of 3. It's a good hint that the third set of numbers is always 1. I don't think any of these objects are changing size in the game. That's all well and good, but it's not super clear which transform is for the Cyclops. You can search the files for the words submarine, exosuit, and sea moth, but I'm still not sure about the structure of the file. All I need to do though is replace the nan values with a reasonable value. This bit of Python code looks through all of the Unity.transform objects in a file and prints out the numbers for each one. There's a lot of them in here, but there are only 3 transforms with Nan, and they have Nan for all 3 position values. Since this script also shows us where in the file it is, I went to each one in the hex editor and manually replaced the values. For example, I changed the Cyclops to 100, 100, 100. That should put it 100 meters above sea level and about 141 meters northeast of the center of the map. After I save the file and then load the game again, then teleport to 100, 100. Yep, there it is. Apparently the game glitched really hard. I can't toggle the lights, and it claims I'm simultaneously full health and on fire and under attack. When I turn on the engine, it still says the engine is off, and it claims I have a fire suppression system, which I definitely do not. I took out all the power cells, but my health is stuck at negative 2000. I don't think the Cyclops can die, which is kinda cool. I did the same fix to my prawn suit, which originally was in my Cyclops, but unfortunately it wouldn't let me get back in. It's probably because it thinks it's still in the Cyclops. This was an extreme case of vehicular malfunction, but if your Seamoth, prawn suit, or Cyclops merely gets stuck in the ground as opposed to this hellhole of Nans, editing the game file will be an easy way to restore your vehicle to whatever safe location you want. Basically, you need to know the approximate coordinates of your vehicle, where it's stuck. Search your save file for a transform near the vehicle data that has those coordinates, and then just change them to a location that you know is safe. Anyways, if you know more about the save file format that Subnautica uses, let us know in the comments below. That'll help us explore more ways of hacking these save files in the future.